You have to work hard to make a small business successful. You tighten your belt and you learn to stretch a dollar. But did you plan to be robbed in your own parking lot? Stop the Threat starts now. Hello and welcome to Stop the Threat. My name is James Towle. On this week's episode, we take you to North Carolina for a reenactment about a small business owner targeted by bad guys at closing. We call this one Shopkeeper Ambush. But before we see part one, let me introduce you to this week's panel. Wes Doss, president of Kyber Interactive Associates. Tim Shepard, licensed attorney, also served as a Port Security Tech 3 in the U.S. Coast Guard, and Dianna Muller, retired Tulsa police, certified instructor, professional three-gun competitor, and captain of the Benelli team. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
I'm going to start this one off. I've gotten a lot of questions that you're going to answer, I hope.
Great.
And this one in particular comes quite often, and so I'm just going to repeat it. What do you as an attorney not want me to say after a shooting when law enforcement arrives? I get this a lot, folks. Let's see what the attorney suggests.
Well, first, James, you need to be completely honest. If the threat is real, you need to articulate that you were in fear for your life. Then you need to explain that if there was a weapon present, what type of weapon it was, or the fact that there was a weapon present. And finally, after you give a thumbnail sketch, you would be well served to ask to speak with your attorney, and then come in at a later date to give a more in-depth statement.
Okay, so you're not suggesting that when law enforcement, and I'm just going to play this out just like you do when you ask me the question. I've just shot someone during a burglary. And so law enforcement comes in. You do not want me to say, I just shot that guy, or not?
Oh, I would absolutely say I just shot him. And plus the officer, if he's really astute, is going to figure out he was shot anyway. So. Okay,
so you admit to that one, all right? Mm-hmm. Do you admit to it on the phone to 911?
Yes, absolutely. You need to say that what's causing you to be in fear for your life.
All right. If I'm not arrested, should I call my attorney anyway?
Absolutely.
Because?
Because your attorney knows the nuances of the law. The prosecution has attorneys that are going to review this case, and chances are it will go to a grand jury. So you need to be well advised of your legal rights.
Okay. Here's the next question, and I get this one a lot too. If the shooting happened in my home, can law enforcement legally search my residence?
Yes.
So if you have something in your residence that you don't want to have discovered by law enforcement, and they have the right to go in there and look, and if they come across it, they're going to hold you to it.
Well, what they have to do is they have to search what's called the wingspan of the area. They will look around in the immediate area. Now, it's a gray area of law as to whether they can look in cabinets or closets. There may be another suspect that they're looking for. There may be someone you didn't see that's already in your house. So, yes, they can.
All right.
I'll jump in here is that as a police officer, we go to a crime scene, specifically homicides, and we would always go to the effort to get some sort of search waiver, or if there's nobody present, we just hold what we had and get a search warrant.
All right, we'll be right back. I'm going to show you part one of Shopkeeper Ambush, and Wes may have a comment. Don't go away. Thanks for coming back. Actually, before we left, though, we were discussing whether or not law enforcement can search your home if a shooting has taken place in your home, and how far can they go in that search. Now, Dianna helped clarify some of that. I don't know, is there like a foot? I mean, how do they measure how far you can go outside of the immediate crime scene?
Well, when we're in a house and it's a crime scene, you're obviously going to do a cursory search for a protective sweep, basically, make sure there's nobody else in the house. But that's the extent of, from what I understand, that's the extent of we're to make sure everybody's safe. We're going to stop what we're doing and then go to the search warrant or the search waivers.
You can go in the attic, you can go in the basement?
You can go anywhere you feel, yeah, if there's any holes anywhere, you want to make sure you clear. And all you're looking for are bodies that can do you harm.
Okay,
you're not looking for evidence.
Okay, so you're in the bedroom and you notice on the bedstand that there is drugs. Do you care?
Whether you care or not, whether it's there or not, it's something that you would discover regardless. It's incidental and it's there. It's out in the open. You know, I think there's a difference too on to clarify that when you arrive and say it's not you as the good guy, but say it's the bad guy. There's that lungible area that he has access to that becomes searchable. Right. But when the home, if it happens in a home, is still considered it's a crime scene until proven otherwise, we have that amount of time initially on scene to do that cursory search before we have to go back and actually secure a warrant to do a deeper search. And that's really for cursory information.
Well, right.
and
to
people.
jump in on Wes's point, the key word is reasonable.
Right.
Is it reasonable for the officer to think that there may be evidence of the crime or another person in this area?
Okay, so like I said, let's just go back real quick. We only got a few seconds and we need to actually see part one. But to clarify this, if this is true and you go through the bedroom and you see a pile of cocaine, what are you going to do?
That would be considered plain view, and I was there legally, lawfully, and I would then include that in my search warrant.
Okay, let's watch part one of Shopkeeper Ambush.
It took y'all long enough.
What's the matter anyway? I had plans tonight.
Is your plans gonna make you some money? Yeah, I ain't think so.
So why are we here?
The guy that runs that shop comes out with a bag every Saturday. My guess is that he has a week's worth of earnings in it.
So what's the plan? We stick him up for a bag that we don't even know if it got money in it or not?
Man, give me that. You got a better plan?
Nah, as long as I can get my piece back.
And don't draw attention to us then. Y'all packing?
Kinda.
That'll work, man. We got him with numbers. So here's the plan. Hey, man, what's up?
I don't know you.
Where you going?
Look, guys, I'm just trying to get home. You're in my way.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to kind of start this off with shopkeepers at home. Give me some help on this one. Tell me what your closing procedures would be. But right now, how many mistakes did you see, Wes?
Initially, the distance from the front door to the car, the vacancy of the parking lot, got the guys out in the parking lot.
The guy didn't look out the window.
No, didn't look out the window.
Paying attention to what was going on out there.
Zero situational awareness.
Yeah, but again, we have to go back to that human factor. You've been closing the shop for 27 years, and this is the way you do it. And hey, if I'm wrong I'm not a shopkeeper, help me out there come to social media and tell me or send me an email or something. But to me, it seemed to me if I'm carrying money, I don't care whether I'm a shopkeeper or not, I'm gonna be a little more cognizant of who's around me.
Absolutely, and he also needed a video recording system. Not only would it allow him to see what's happening outside in the parking lot, It could also later be used as evidence to prove that you acted justifiably.
Anybody else want to comment on anything? You know, going into the parking lot, somebody comes out of the dark. I'm going to tell you right now, sir, if anybody comes suddenly out of the dark, they're not coming with cake and cookies, okay? They're coming for a reason, and you're not going to be comfortable with it. Wouldn't you want to back yourself into that door somewhere?
He's just in a bad way.
Yeah, and I think he's pushing his luck.
And well, and regardless of whether he had money or not, they suspected that he had money, and it's a good.
Oh, you're right. They've been watching the place. Obviously, they knew the procedure.
And they knew that they had him with numbers too. So you're right. He's been closing the shop for the same way, and nothing's ever happened. So he's just in a bad way right now. So it's going to be.
When we come back, we're going to finish that because I think there's a few more things we can say. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Yeah, thanks for coming back, actually. There's a lot that this shopkeeper did wrong. I mean, I think Tim brought out a good point that if you're going to be one of those guys who's going to take money home at night, they're very inexpensive to have a video system that you would have looked for on your computer. You would have looked at it and gone, okay, the parking lot looks pretty good. Now, that may not prevent you from getting in trouble. So I think the last time to change your mind about where you're going and what you're going to do is when somebody comes out of the dark and suddenly starts to approach you. That's my take.
Have an exit strategy, absolutely. Have some sort of way to egress away from the situation, go back inside the building, do something.
Dianna?
He's just completely overwhelmed at this point, and you know, everybody has weapons on his end, and he has to get to his. So it's going to be interesting to see how he gets out of this.
I don't think he's mentally prepared to walk out that door. I think he had the wrong state of mind. He was not paying attention to what's going on. But in part two, we'll see what the results are. Let's watch.
All right, so here's the plan. We're gonna hide by the bushes. You can hide over behind that car. You hide over there. I'm gonna stay here. When he comes out, we're just gonna surround him. We're gonna get this money.
Why don't we just shoot him and take the stuff?
Because I don't want to go to prison.
Whatever,
Hey,
man.
here he comes. Go hide. Let's go.
Come on, let's go.
Hey, man, what's up?
I don't know you.
Where you going?
Look, guys, I'm just trying to get home. You're in my way. Look, man, I don't know what you want, but I'm not your guy.
And what is it that you think that we want? Hands up!
All right? Look, man, I don't have anything. If you guys let me go, I promise I won't call the cops.
Just hand over the bag.
Look, man, if you take this, I won't be able to make rent next week.
Give us the damn bag. Stop moving.
All right, here you go.
Okay, well, there's a lot here.
That was a pretty quick draw.
You know what? To pull out and get into a gun battle with three guys by yourself, I think number one, remember these are real stories. We don't make this up. This is based upon police reports. So he took on three guys in the middle of the night who are all armed. Number one, you know, congratulations, sir, you walked away from this one. Does anybody want to recommend that in the future?
I would probably give a little bit more hesitation to taking on. It was 4 bad guys, 3 with guns and 1 with a knife, and I probably would have given them the bag and then used my lethal forces, if they continued to aggress.
You could have used the bag as even some kind of a distraction, maybe done, taking the bag off and done one of those. Here's the bag and here's the gun, kind of a thing. So I don't want to get into a tactics thing necessarily. legally, where are we?
Well, the standard, again, you're going to hear this word over and over, is reasonable. Would a reasonable person, similarly situated, acted the same as he did? And I feel like that he was reasonably in fear for his life and that he had every right to use lethal force to defend himself.
Okay, Wes?
I mean, now without going into the tactic side of it, but I mean, yeah, I mean, thinking about when you're going to access that pistol, you've still got 4 guys fanned out in front of you. That's putting you at a real serious disadvantage. I mean, trying to get yourself positioned where you've got one of them in front of the other one, or channel them into another location, you're really at a position of disadvantage when they're like that. So put some thought into that.
Yeah, and again, we're not trying to do tactics, but I would give him credit for the fact that when he was shooting, he was moving. Actually, I would give a minus mark to the bad guys because they were static in returning fire. Okay, the good guys on the move, looking for shelter and firing. So, you know, I'm going to give him some credit there.
Absolutely. He did the right thing in seeking cover, moving away from the threat and seeking cover. And
not presenting himself as a standing target.
Correct.
He was on the move. So if you're a shopkeeper, it would seem to me that you would want to go to an instructor. And you would say to that instructor, you know what, I leave the shop every night at 11:30, and I have money. Can we walk through a scenario at my location at that time of night? I mean, is this unreasonable?
No.
it's a very
Have
good
you
idea.
ever been approached to do anything like that? In other words, training right there on location at that moment in time when he's the most vulnerable. Anyone ever asked you to do that?
We have programs where we do try to integrate a force-on-force scenario into a real-world situation. You know, we try to run it in a school, an office, you know, some sort of location like that. So yeah, there's programs that are out there.
Okay, so civilians and good citizens, good citizens can come to an instructor and say, let's do this at my location at this time of night, and let's train for that. Now, you know, and there may be locations in the middle of a mall or, you know, or something like that where it's probably not going to happen, but it would seem to me if I were a shopkeeper, I would want to get an instructor to walk me through this so that when I locked up at night, I thought of all the things that we're thinking of, plus I would have had some experience, what I like to call mental preparation, as to what might take place. We come back, we'll have more. Don't go away. Thank you for coming back. I really don't want to end this right now because I think there's a lot more things we could. Another suggestion I might have to a shopkeeper, and you'd probably all agree with me, is change up your routine. Maybe you do that. You know, maybe you do change your routine, or maybe if you have a quantity of money, you're even asking someone to stay behind with you. So at least if something happens, there's 2 of you. Not if they're expecting 1 and 2 shows up, you throw the whole thing. I mean, there has to be ways. And again, shopkeepers out there and business owners, let me know what your security arrangements are, because I think we'd all like to share some of that. We won't give your location necessarily, but we'd like some information from you. Again, I like the idea of training on site. I think the other thing that he could have done that he didn't, and I'm really in favor of, is voice intimidation. He was a little weak when he was first approached. I mean, I'm kind of like one of those guys, stay away from, I'm going to get loud and I'm going to look aggressive. And I don't think he did that. Now, of course, that doesn't work for every physical person out there, but voice intimidation, I mean, the bad guys are looking for an easy score here, right? So if you make it sound like you're smarter than they are, hopefully, then you might back off, may get another second or 2 of life before you have to, you know, join up to something here.
One thing that I noticed is, did he have a holster?
You know, I wasn't sure. I saw him take the gun out. I think there was a holster involved. I have to look at the police report again, but I seem to remember reading that, yes.
Well, because I was concerned that if he didn't have a holster, he would run the risk of losing his gun had he chosen to run. He had no way to secure it if he'd been jumped from behind. So I think that he'd just been letting himself in for a whole lot of trouble that a $100 holster would have stopped.
Yeah, actually I thought for a moment, now I'll have to look at the report again, it looked like he had a reload ready. Did anybody notice that? When he got behind the column,
Was it a reload or
I
was it a
saw
cell phone?
something happening there.
Was it his phone or a reload?
Maybe not. Maybe it was
I
a
don't know.
phone.
It's hard to tell in the reenactment.
Okay. Okay. Or maybe he was getting his keys out because he went into the door. Right. So probably another thing would be to have a reload ready for when you're doing an exit. I do have some follow-up on this, and I'm going to run through it really quickly. One bad guy dead on the scene. Shopkeeper did not realize that he had actually shot anyone until the police arrived. The statement by the detective was, it's pretty cut and dry. He was on private property. He was approached by gunmen who tried to take his money. As far as we're concerned, that's justifiable use of force. That's from the investigating detective. So one dead, one in custody, and the rest are still being sought. That's the conclusion to that one. So if we were to leave the audience with anything, what good suggestion would you give them?
Have a plan.
Have a plan.
Have a plan.
Have a rehearsed
rehearsed
plan. I like that.
I think that's the easiest step that you can take is to have a plan. And even if it's not an instructor per se, even if it's just your family, your friends, your other employees, if you guys discuss and have this conversation and watch this show, that's the beauty of it, is that you have a plan to recall.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank all of you. And thank you for tuning in this week. We certainly appreciate it. Be safe, be trained, be alert.